What's up, Karma Nation? You're watching another edition of the Super Bales Bros NFL Battle of the Bales podcast. So last week didn't go so well for me. I led the bet team with spread bet selections with 11 wins, and of course the Washington Redskins failed to cover the spread against the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football, which drops my podcast record to 1-2. Justin, how'd you fare?
Yeah, last week, um, overall, I only went 9-7, so still a plus week, but not elite. With that being said, I did my podcast bet was the Giants. I believe it was +6 or something, and they obviously won outright on a short missed field goal by Tampa Bay. They really should have lost that game, but Danny Dimes in town. He looks the part. It's one game. Stop getting so excited. I mean, realistically, who knows what he's going to be. Regardless, though, catch the bet. Good week, 1-1 on the pod, so not really bad.
Yeah, awesome. So as usual, I'm gonna let you go first with your pick, but I know we have to at least mention the Green Bay Packers and Philadelphia Eagles game. I know it's probably a bit of a sore spot for you, so we'll make it quick, but definitely going to need your key takeaways from that game.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even care at this point. It's just annoying. Key takeaways are: why are we challenging pass interference if when it's clearly pass interference, nothing happens? And then on top of it, when there's very clear-cut pass interference to end a game on the 2-yard line, we're not going to review that. So you can challenge pass interference and waste a timeout, essentially, and they're not going to review it again. I don't know. It's just I picked Green Bay -4. Packers fan, obviously. I did feel like the Eagles obviously had a lot more to play for. Just kind of difficult to assume that they would head into Lambeau and take a win away from Green Bay. But I don't know. Between Alshon getting hit very clearly where they didn't overturn the call, Marquez Valdes-Scantling getting hit where they didn't overturn the call, and then getting his arm down, which, no, it's not a good play call, but that doesn't give you the excuse to blatantly interfere with the receiver trying to catch the ball for an interception to win the game. It should have been on the 1-yard line for Green Bay. You have to assume they score. And I'm not saying they win in overtime. I'm just saying that's a terrible way to end a game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Packers defense didn't look great. They started the game off good. I think the Packers sort of fell apart late. And obviously the refs were almost unwatchable. Football is becoming much more of that, and I hope that the league actually does something about it soon, because Tom Brady and whoever have been criticizing NCAA refs, but NFL refs have been just as bad this season. You can't always blame games on the refs, but I mean, when there's blatant missed calls, it's tough to not think, oh, what would have happened if they actually would, do their job right. But anyway, floor is yours for your betting recommendation this week. And then after that, I will offer my betting recommendation, which is actually not even a spread bet. I'm going straight money line on a dog, not on a favorite.
I like it. I actually went back and forth. I think there were three bets that I was considering for this podcast, so I'm hoping I don't get bit by this. I do think that with 2 hours left basically till game time, you might be able to wait and catch this at +7. Right now it's +6.5, but the vig is on the Indianapolis Colts. I am taking the opposite side. I'm going Oakland +6.5. I do think you might be able to wait and get it at +7, which obviously is a prime number compared to 6.5 because it gets the touchdown. But I will take the Oakland Raiders. And if you listen to our 2-minute warning, I actually was on Indianapolis. That has changed, obviously, since I'm taking Oakland here. But mainly it's changed because of injuries. When you look at the Colts, T.Y. Hilton was initially, they were optimistic he could play. He's now doubtful, so I'm going to assume he's out. Darius Leonard, Malik Hooker, Tyquan Lewis have all already been ruled out. Jabal Sheard is still working himself back from a knee injury. He was limited all week, and they said he's questionable to play in this game. Pierre Desir had a limited practice after missing Thursday and Wednesday. He's questionable to play with a hamstring injury, so you know that could flare up at any point in time. And then Jabal Sheard's backup got in a full practice on Friday, so I'm anticipating that he could play full snaps if needed. But Muhammad is dealing with a neck injury where he did not practice on Wednesday or Thursday, kind of maintenance there. So I expect him to play, but I don't expect him to be at full strength. When you also, I guess realistically, you could factor in that Ryan Kelly, Indianapolis starting center, is also dealing with an illness. He practiced in full Wednesday and Friday, or Thursday and Friday. So I don't really expect that to be a major factor here, but it's worth noting that sometimes when guys play sick, they play down a little bit. So, I mean, you're just essentially betting on the Colts to beat the Colts backups in a lot of key positions to beat Oakland starters by a touchdown. That is a lot of points in an NFL game. If you can get this at 7 where you push on a touchdown, they have to beat them by more than a touchdown. I don't think Oakland's good. I do think Indy's good. But without T.Y. Hilton on that offense, it would not shock me whatsoever if they don't put up a bunch of points. And in a low-scoring game, beating a different team by 7 or more points is just not that likely to happen. So I'll side with Oakland here. But I do think with the way the line's moving at the moment, you can probably wait a little bit longer and get this at +7.
Yeah, I agree. Injuries have been a real thing for the Colts. You mentioned about an illness, Kelly being sick. Did you hear the reports that the Jaguars are dealing with basically a locker room wide sickness?
I haven't heard that. I know that Jalen Ramsey said his back has flared up on him multiple times, and he said even if he's playing, he's going to play with a tight back. So Ramsey's well under 100%, and with him potentially getting traded, I don't see why they would try to even put him in this game. So I'm going to guess Jalen Ramsey's not playing for them. Add in an illness, and I mean, Jacksonville's in trouble.
I forget who it was. I saw it on Twitter. Obviously, it was a credible source, or I would have just threw it out. Apparently the Jacksonville's entire locker room has been dealing with flu-like symptoms. They've kept it under wraps, but for like the last week or so. I'm assuming their practices probably weren't all that difficult this week. The coach, obviously, not wanting to push them too hard, but that's something to keep in consideration. They play Denver this weekend.
In Denver, too. So you got the thin air. It's going to be difficult to breathe. I mean, that could really play a factor, I think.
Cool. So moving on, I just got in from Austin, Texas. The plane landed last night around midnight, and I actually didn't get back to Virginia until about 3 a.m., so I just woke up like 45 minutes ago. So I might be a little bit jet-lagged and sleep-deprived, but my recommendation this week is Saints Moneyline, which is currently +135. The Dallas Cowboys are a good team, obviously, undefeated 3-0. And the Saints are currently banged up. Drew Brees out, everyone knows that. He'll be back this season, but for now, it's all about Teddy Bridgewater. Maybe a little Hill in there. Haven't seen much of that, but apparently it's going to happen. But, as long as I think the Saints can keep Ezekiel Elliott somewhat contained, this game's going to come down to the final series, I think. So that makes us basically a coin flip, and you can get the Saints at +135. Unfortunately, the pros for Dallas is that Elliott finally looks like he's in midseason form. Obviously, he had a lengthy holdout where he didn't get to play preseason. He said he was in shape, but in the first week he didn't look that in shape, at least not game-ready shape. And then over the last 2 weeks, he obviously has gotten much better. Even so, the Saints have a good defensive line, and despite a poor performance against the run in the first 3 weeks, I think they're going to keep getting better. I believe they're ranked like 26th in the league against the rush so far this season, but I think that they'll play much better than that. I don't know. The Saints should stack the box with all the injuries to the Dallas wide receivers. Amari Cooper's going to play, but he might be semi-limited. He had a little scare. His MRI came back negative. He'll definitely suit up. How much he'll be able to put weight on his ankle is still to be determined. Obviously, Gallup, who just had surgery, he's out this week. And the Saints' outside cornerbacks are absolutely fantastic. They always shut down the outside receivers. The problem is the slot receiver, which is why Cooper Kupp did so well for the Rams. And I think if anyone's going to find a lot of success this weekend, it's going to be Randall Cobb in the slot for the Cowboys. Um, Perhaps Witten as well. I'll talk about him a little later. The Saints, on the other hand, despite not having Drew Brees at the helm, they have plenty of offensive weapons. Michael Thomas is one of the league's best, obviously. And the dump down passes to Alvin Kamara, despite everyone being like, oh, is all they're going to do throw the ball short to Alvin Kamara? Oh, is Alvin Kamara just going to run draws? It's working, so why not? He's super explosive out of the backfield. Um, I think Alvin Kamara is definitely going to score points, and Jared Cook has been so quiet this season. He had a pretty good week one. After that, pretty much been kept out of the game plan. I think that he could get lost in traffic tonight. Dallas is going to struggle to cover, the top guys in New Orleans. I don't think they're going to put that much emphasis on Cook, which could lead him to score a touchdown or two tonight. Obviously, Witten for Dallas is a red zone threat, but first Dallas has to get into the red zone. Um, I just don't with their receivers. I just don't. I mean, Dak Prescott obviously great, but the Saints have a really good pass defense already, and Dallas just doesn't have the weapons to be favorites against the Saints, even without Drew Brees in the Superdome. So, and as a bonus, Jason Witten is worth DFS consideration tonight based on his. I believe I wrote him up in my Red Zone article this week, if not this week, last week. Weeks get confused when you're on vacation. But anyway, back to the betting. The Saints are 36%, getting 36% of the bets, 40% of the money. And of recent, the betting has been like steaming in their favor. So you have to keep that in mind. I think most of the sharps are on the Saints. The Superdome should add about 8 points to the spread because typically maybe not 8, or 6 or so. Because typically you add 4.5 or whatever for home field. So maybe an additional 2 points or so for being in the Superdome. It's super loud on there. It's super home team friendly. What's up?
I gotta be honest. I'm on the opposite side. I think Cowboys win. I get what you're saying. I just think the Cowboys are the better team. I don't think Bridgewater is very good at the moment. He could be. I do like Bridgewater, so I think he's probably played down a little bit because he's so rusty. But I don't know. I wrote before the season that I think the Cowboys win that division, and I think that they're much better than people give them credit for. So I don't see them having that much of an issue. With that being said, Sunday night game in New Orleans, the Saints are going to be up for this game, so I don't really hate that you would take a shot on them.
Yeah, and Sean Payton is just in a different league coaching wise. No one ever really takes coaches into consideration. We always talk about players, but Saints have a better coach, period, and much better coach, I think, at that. But yeah, mainly the main things are the Superdome, Cowboys injuries to their wide receivers. The Saints rush defense has been playing worse than they should be playing, so I think they'll step up. Teddy Bridgewater is only going to get better with time. Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, you have a very, very explosive offense. And the Saints special teams team, I know we also don't talk about that very frequently. They have been great this season, and they're creating touchdown opportunities on obviously plays that should never be touchdown opportunities. So we'll see. This week, I'll take Saints money line. I'm only recommending. I'll take Saints spread, but I'm only recommending Saints money line because I think that the end of this game turns into a coin flip, where either Breeze or Prescott has a shot to win it with like 30 seconds left, and that either happens or it doesn't. But at plus 135, I'll take that. You flip a coin 100 times, I'll take plus 135 every time.
I can get behind that. I have no issues with that.
Cool. So you got anything else for this week?
I think that we just need to quick mention that this pod has been sponsored by Monkey Knife Fight and Prize Picks Online. If you're in New Jersey, go ahead and bet with us at betwilliamhill.online, and good luck with all of your bets this week.
Yeah, and Kerryon Johnson this week. Put him in the lineup. So may the odds forever be in your favor. Sayonara.